John Carpenter's Halloween, released in 1978, is a monumental piece of horror cinema that forever altered the trajectory of the horror genre. Born from the mind of a visionary filmmaker, Halloween took the simplicity of a low-budget slasher and transformed it into a masterclass in atmospheric tension, psychological terror, and minimalist storytelling. With its unforgettable antagonist, Michael Myers, and a quietly powerful protagonist in Laurie Strode, this film is a beautifully crafted exercise in restraint and subtlety that continues to inspire, terrify, and captivate audiences over 4 decades later. At its core, Halloween's success lies not in its elaborate backstories or gratuitous violence, but in the dread it instills in viewers through every deliberate shot, every note of its iconic score, and every lingering scene of suburban normalcy turned sinister. Carpenter's minimalist approach made it not just a standout in 1970s horror, but a timeless masterpiece that has retained its relevance across generations. In this video, I will explore the key elements that make Halloween not just the best horror film of all time, but one that continues to define and redefine what fear looks and feels like. Through its masterful direction, simple yet terrifying narrative, enduring characters, iconic villain, and cultural legacy, Halloween is an enduring, timeless horror classic. John Carpenter's direction in Halloween is a textbook example of how to create terror through restraint, atmosphere, and an acute understanding of cinematic pacing. From the moment the films open with that now legendary POV shot, Carpenter establishes himself as a director who knows how to put the audience directly into the scene, making them unwilling participants in the unfolding horror. The opening scene, which follows young Michael Myers as he stalks through his own home and brutally murders his sister, Carpenter utilizes the first-person perspective to heighten the intimacy of the violence, forcing the viewer to confront the horror through the eyes of the killer, an innovation that was groundbreaking for its time. The tension in this sequence comes not from the act of murder itself, but from the quiet build-up, the creeping sense that something horrible is about to happen. One of the standout aspects of Carpenter's direction is his exceptional use of the camera to generate suspense. The wide-angle shots of Haddonfield's suburban streets, often bathed in the golden hue of late afternoon sunlight, are deeply unsettling. Carpenter transforms these safe, ordinary settings into places of unshakable dread. The camera lingers just a beat too long on an empty sidewalk, barren front yards, and houses where life seems perfectly normal. By allowing the audience to take in these scenes with a sense of unease, Carpenter subtly primes us for the terror that will inevitably follow. In Halloween, every open space feels like a trap waiting to be sprung, and every moment of stillness feels charged with the potential for violence. It is in these moments of waiting, when nothing happens, that Carpenter's direction truly shines. Moreover, Carpenter's ability to sustain tension throughout Halloween without resorting to cheap tricks or unnecessary exposition is a testament to his skill as a filmmaker. Many horror directors lean heavily on sudden explosive jump scares or grotesque images to elicit fear, but Carpenter knows that true terror is born from anticipation. One of the most effective techniques he employs is his use of Michael Myers' presence, or lack thereof. Often Michael is glimpsed briefly at the edge of the frame or through a window, only to vanish just as quickly as he appeared. Carpenter builds suspense not by showing too much, but by showing just enough. The constant question of when and where Michael will strike next keeps the audience in a state of perpetual anxiety, a feeling that lingers long after the film ends. Finally, the pacing of Halloween is a masterstroke of gradual escalation. Carpenter is in no rush to deliver the scares. He takes his time, building a world where dread seeps into every corner. This slow burn approach allows the fear to grow organically, with each scene contributing to the mounting sense of unease. By the time Michael begins his final assault on Laurie Strode, the tension has been wound so tightly that every creak on the floorboards and every breath Michael takes feels like a knife to the nerves. Carpenter's direction is the heart of Halloween, a precise and methodical creation of fear that has yet to be surpassed in the horror genre even today. Halloween stands as a testament to the power of simplicity in storytelling. At its core, the film's plot is a disarmingly straightforward one. A masked killer escapes from a mental institution and returns to his hometown to wreak havoc on a group of unsuspecting teenagers. Yet within this seemingly basic framework, Carpenter crafts a story that resonates on a much deeper, primal level. One of the most brilliant aspects of this film is its refusal to over-explain Michael Myers' motivations. There is no elaborate backstory, no tragic origin tale to humanize him or justify his actions. He is simply evil incarnate, a force of nature. This decision to keep Michael's motives vague only serves to imply and amplify the horror, because what's scarier than evil is one you can't comprehend or reason with. By stripping down the story to its bare necessities, Carpenter is able to focus on what really matters, the atmosphere and the characters' reactions to their impending doom. There's no unnecessary dialogue, no convoluted subplots to distract from the central theme of pure, unstoppable evil. Instead, this minimalistic approach allows the viewer to project their own fears onto the story, making the horror feel personal and effective. Carpenter's script, co-written with producer Deborah Hill, emphasizes mood over exposition, ensuring that the story unfolds organically rather than feeling forced. The quiet, slow moments in the film are just as important as the moments of high tension, as they manage to create a rhythm that lulls the audience into a false sense of security before shattering it with brutal precision. The simplicity of Halloween extends to its characters, most notably Laurie Strode. Laurie, played to perfection by a young Jamie Lee Curtis, is not a complex, multi-layered character in the traditional sense. She doesn't have a dark past, a tragic secret, or any of the typical traits we often associate with strong protagonists. Instead, she is just a regular teenage girl, smart, resourceful, but ultimately just trying to survive in a situation she never asked for. It's this ordinariness that makes her so relatable and ultimately so timeless and so heroic. Laurie Strode isn't trying to be a hero, she's simply doing whatever it takes to make it through the night. This makes her triumph over Michael Myers feel more authentic, as it's born not out of some superhuman ability, but rather a primal human instinct for survival. In addition, the film's minimal dialogue adds to the unsettling atmosphere. Conversations between characters are mundane, filled with typical teenage banter, which makes the intrusion of violence all the more shocking when it occurs. There's something incredibly disquieting about the way life in Haddonfield continues on as normal, with nobody realizing that an unstoppable killer is lurking in the shadows. This juxtaposition between normalcy and horror is one of Halloween's greatest strengths. Carpenter doesn't need to rely on complicated plot twists or shock value to create tension. The horror comes from the simplicity of the situation, ordinary people in an ordinary town facing an almost incomprehensible terror. At the heart of Halloween lies its most enigmatic and terrifying character, Michael Myers. Known simply as the Shape in the film's credits, Michael is an embodiment of pure, unrelenting evil. Carpenter crafted a villain who defies traditional characterization, making Michael all the more frightening. Unlike other horror antagonists, he has no clear motive, no humanizing backstory, and no emotional connections to his victims. He is a blank slate, an unstoppable force driven by a primal need to kill. This lack of explanation is key to Michael's terror, with Carpenter understanding that what we can't understand is often far more terrifying than what we can. The more we learn about a villain's motives, the less mysterious and terrifying they become. In Halloween, Michael's inexplicability is precisely what makes him so terrifying. Visually, Michael Myers is iconic. The plain white mask, which eerily lacks any expression, adds to the character's dehumanizing presence. The mask is devoid of personality, further emphasizing that Michael is not a person but rather a force of nature, a personification of death itself. Carpenter's decision to use Captain Kirk's mask, painted white and distorted, is now the stuff of legends. The result was a face that looks human but feels entirely alien. The mask is devoid of any emotion, which creates this unsettling contrast when Michael is committing acts of unspeakable violence. The cold, impassive face, watching Laurie from across the street or stalking her through the shadows, strips away any notion of humanity, making Michael a terrifyingly efficient killing machine. What's perhaps most chilling about Michael Myers is his relentless, methodical pursuit of his victims. He doesn't run or show any signs of frustration or anger, he simply walks. Carpenter uses this slow, deliberate movement to great effect, building tension by showing that no matter how fast or far Laurie runs, Michael will always be right behind her. His unhurried pace adds a layer of an inevitability to the horror, with Michael catching up and there is no escaping him. This slow, steady pursuit taps into a primal fear, the idea that no matter what we do, something terrible is coming for us and it cannot be stopped. Carpenter doesn't need to show Michael running because the terror comes from knowing that Michael and his patience will inevitably pay off. Michael Myers is death, and death, as we know, comes for everyone, sometimes out of nowhere. Furthermore, Michael's apparent invincibility makes him more terrifying. Throughout the film, he is stabbed, shot, and beaten, but nothing stops him. he rises again and again, an unstoppable juggernaut of horror. This refusal to die elevates him from a mere slasher villain to something far more sinister. Michael Myers almost becomes something of a mythic figure, akin to the boogeyman. Carpenter's decision to leave Michael's fate ambiguous, and at the end of the film, only adds to this legend. He vanishes into the night, leaving the audience with the unsettling notion that he is still out there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for his next victim. With Michael Myers, through Carpenter's masterful direction, becomes a horror icon, and his terrifying presence continues to haunt audiences to this day. One of the most instantly recognizable aspects of Halloween is its score, composed by John Carpenter himself. The chilling, minimalist piano melody that serves as the film's main theme is synonymous with terror and the horror genre. Carpenter's decision to score the film with simple, repetitive notes was a stroke of genius. In an era where horror films were often accompanied by orchestral soundtracks designed to overwhelm the audience, Carpenter himself went in the complete opposite direction, using music that was sparse, haunting, and deeply unsettling. The Halloween theme is both rhythmic and erratic, creating a sense of unease from the moment it starts. It's a piece of music that sticks with you long after the credits roll, much like the film and Michael Myers itself. The brilliance of Carpenter's score lies in its ability to create and sustain tension. The music often appears before Michael does, signaling his presence without the need for dialogue or visual cues. The repetition of the theme mirrors Michael's own relentless pursuit, as if the music is stalking the audience just as Michael stalks Laurie. Carpenter's use of simple, repetitive motifs throughout the film reinforces this sense of inevitability that permeates Halloween. Every time the theme returns, it reminds us, the audience, that Michael is still out there, lurking and waiting. The music becomes a character in and of itself, a harbinger of doom that follows the action like an invisible predator just waiting to strike. The music feels like an extension of Michael's presence, cold, mechanical, and unyielding, with Carpenter's decision to keep the score so minimalist that it mirrors the film's approach to storytelling. Less is more, and by refusing to clutter the soundtrack with unnecessary noise, Carpenter allows the silence and stillness of the film to speak just as loudly as the music. Carpenter's score for Halloween has become so iconic that it is difficult to imagine the film without it. The music has transcended the movie itself, becoming a cultural touchstone that represents fear and suspense in the broader world of cinema. The Halloween theme has been covered, remixed, and referenced in countless times over the decades, but no version has ever matched the primal fear evoked by Carpenter's original composition. The score is timeless, much like the film, and it plays a crucial role in making Halloween the best and most enduring horror film ever made. Halloween has rightfully earned its place as the most timeless and effective horror film ever created. John Carpenter's vision for a minimalist, atmospheric, and deeply unsettling slasher has transcended the genre, solidifying its legacy not only as a horror classic, but as a masterwork of cinematic crafting. From the haunting simplicity of Michael Myers' character to the tight, suspenseful direction and the ever-iconic score, every element of this film works in harmony to create an experience that is as terrifying today as it was in 1978. Where other horror films might date themselves with trendy effects or overcomplicated plots, the original Halloween remains starkly, beautifully simple, a reflection of our deepest, most primal fears. It is a film that continues to influence the genre even today, inspiring new generations of filmmakers and terrifying the audiences all the world over. As long as people continue to fear the dark, the unknown, and the monster lurking just out of sight, Halloween will remain the gold standard for horror. Within its simplicity, its subtlety, and its sheer unrelenting terror, Halloween is not just the best horror film of all time, it is the epitome of what horror should be.